job in this industry?
Good question. So it's a bit different based on what job you're trying to do, I would say. It's gotten a bit weird with COVID in the past couple of years as well. That's kind of made things a little more challenging as well. Typically, what I would recommend to people if there wasn't COVID would be willing to travel, be willing to meet people. You would really be surprised at what happens if you meet someone at a conference or at a GDC or whatever. And I've seen and heard numerous people get hired on just from walking up to so-and-so at GDC, introduce themselves, and then, hey, he hit you up for 2 months later for your resume. Like, stuff like that does actually happen. That does work. Aside from that, having a portfolio helps. Something you can actually show people that you've done. Whether that is freelance work or just like you experimenting with stuff, playing around, whatever, right? Just kind of showing off your skill set and what you're able to do helps tremendously. Then a big, sadly, and this is the challenging bit, the really helpful part is having some actual working experience with a team. So whether that is an indie team or a freelance gig or what have you, right? Any kind of experience working with a development team on an actual product that does ship is huge. I tell people to look for indie developers or look for Kickstarter or look on Fig or look on Itch or whatever, right? Find games out there that are small or just now starting and just approach them and talk to them. Say, hey, are you doing this? Do you need any help with this? Are you looking for more whatever? And just tell them, basically just be really upfront about what you're trying to do. You're trying to get some more experience. And most of the new developers out there are quick to say yes. Just know that you probably won't get paid much, if at all, for some of those. But it's an ends to a means, right? So, like, the goal is you're trying to build up to get some experience that we can work yourself into something better. I will say now that the challenging bit is with COVID and not traveling enough and not meeting people in person. Digital events are around and they do kind of help, but obviously they're not quite the same as meeting people in person and talking to people and making a lasting, memorable encounter type of thing. But generally, the big one I would say is don't be shy. Like, talk to people. Don't be afraid to reach out to people, whether it's on LinkedIn or social media or what have you. Don't be shy, but also don't be weird. Don't be that creepy person who's like stalker-ish or whatever.
That's funny. That's good to know. And growing that network of people that in the industry just helps in the future down the line, I think. Asking for critiques or feedback, like genuinely asking different like techniques or sharing those techniques is probably helping too for the artists, right? So, and posting regularly is good in different groups. Have a profile on LinkedIn. If you don't have one, that's something to start with, right?
I would say for art specifically, if there's a game artist out there now that you guys really like, or a group of artists out there you really like, hit them up. Like, go straight to the source and like say, hey, I like your stuff. Would you be willing to give me some, tips or pointers or what have you? Most people, unless they're like super busy, are willing to help and willing to offer, guidance or support or what have you. That stuff does work. Like, I'm sure you can pull it up on Twitter, people just reaching out, or DeviantArt, right? I see people on there, saying this is inspired by Destiny, or this is inspired by whatever, right? Fable, or whatever game it may be. And people will just comment, hit them up, talk to them. Don't be afraid to reach out to so-and-so from Konami or so-and-so from 343 or wherever, right? Just, say, hey, I like what you're doing. This is cool. How can I do more of this? Or how can I learn or whatever?
Awesome. Any other questions? Okay.
Yeah, if we might be interested in pursuing a career like outside of the United States, would you recommend trying to work for the studios that are in the United States and then reaching out to their non-US counterparts?
That's a good question.
So any experience is good, whether that is stateside or abroad. It sort of, it really depends on what your goal is, I guess. If it's something you're wanting to go to Europe or abroad, wherever that may be, if you really want to work there, I would just figure out how to get there. I wouldn't try to say you want to go work in Germany for a specific studio, whoever that may be. I would just reach out to them and ask them, hey, I like what you're doing. What can I do to help my chances here? They may tell you, yes, we've got a studio here in Texas or here in California. Why don't you talk to them? That might be a good way in. Or they may just flat out tell you, we're looking for someone with this experience. Do you meet it? And from there, it's a typical interview type process. I would really talk with them because some of them, especially when you get to certain European countries or certain abroad countries, they're very specific on their hiring practice, and some of them require you to live in country for a certain amount of time. Some of them require you to, totally relocate, and there's all sorts of stipulations that come with working with countries abroad. So I would just hit them up directly and see what they would say. But generally speaking, if it's a big enough company like Ubisoft or somebody, yeah, or whoever, right? Like Rockstar or whoever, right? Like a big enough studio that has multiple studios, or a big enough company that has multiple studios. Yeah, getting your foot in the door wherever you can, and then moving around internally, whether that's abroad or stateside or wherever, is generally easier. But it really just depends. I would talk to them.
I just recently talked to this guy Lost Day. He's a 3D artist at a very famous studio in Germany. And just be mindful that switching, from one country to another requires different visa statuses. And once if this is a startup, let's say it's not a famous company, it's something that's smaller, and they would not be offering sponsoring or assistance with that, then that's on you, and that's something that will create additional issues. Is that Europe or Asia you're looking at? I don't think we can't hear you.
I wasn't looking at anything specific. I was just kind of curious.
I see. Okay, yeah. So now this artist, I think I posted him on in general channel. He's he's looking at either going back to New Zealand because that's where he's from originally. And as much as we love New Zealand, like they themselves don't like to be there because I learned from him that it's not that many job offers. It's very isolated, and the time difference, that's a big thing no matter where you go. If you go to Asia or Europe, or there's going to be a disconnect because a lot of big studios are here in the US, unless this is a big studio in wherever you're gonna go. Um, but that's a good thought. I know someone who spent 2 years in Taiwan and then came back and is is working for a studio here. So I could try to connect you if you have more questions. She's up in Boston. But she had a beautiful experience. Well, plus Taiwan is a beautiful country too. So, and it's cheap to live. You don't have to have that burden for the how are you going to pay your bills, and how you're going to make money, and there's just like it's affordable, and then you can do many things. Don't limit yourself to only art. You can teach. You can do lots of teach and teach art. game art. So and travel and have there's other options. So
One
definitely.
thing I'd like to add in, especially as you're looking at games abroad, depending on where you're looking, language could be a required factor as well. So I think she brought up Asia or things like that nature. Tons of companies in Taiwan, China, Korea, Japan, a lot of them do require you to speak their language, which is also a bit challenging. I don't know. For me, learning a language is challenging, but for others, it might not be. So if you already speak those languages, then yeah, go for it. But also, you know, some of the German companies may be that way. I doubt it, but maybe.
Yeah, I only speak English and just a little bit of German. That's it.
Yep.
I think the way she ended up there, she became a teacher, an English teacher for foreigners. So she started teaching it in schools and middle schools, and then slowly she started learning the language, and then that helped her like not being so stressed out after college to find a job and support herself and be independent and like move out of the house from her parents. And now she's at actually she got a pretty good job. She's environmental artist. It's something that I think you, Chris, would be perfect for at Harvard Innovation Labs. Yeah. Um, she's definitely have a lot of international experience as an artist, as a game artist, Emily. So I could connect you guys, girls. She posted, she posted a lot from that experience as well, from the travels and the learnings. Something to blend, the practical and the professional. I would like to know, for example, how different is a production pipeline uh, from different studios, like say AAA studios to an indie studios, based on the team and experience and the size.
Well, as you can imagine, the bigger the team, the different the schedule looks on a detailed level. On an overall schedule, just on like a milestone schedule, they're basically the same, right? They've got your big milestones like an alpha build or a beta build, maybe a gold master or whatever at its highest detail. Once you start breaking it down into like smaller sprints or what have you, it gets much more complicated. I would say the biggest change in any game is that the game itself will dictate kind of what your production schedule looks like and how it develops, I guess. Because like a narrative story game would be much different than an FPS or much different than a sports game, right? There's different things that go into play, and sadly and scary enough, some of those games don't come together until the very end, right? You might have everyone working independently until the last 3 months of a project. Then you put everything together, and how does it look? How does it feel? Do we need more art? Do we need more content? Do we need more sound? Does the design not work? Does the design work great? Do we want more of something? Do we want less of something? The game itself kind of dictates some of those things. What's great is, right, if you know the genre well enough, you can predict and plan around some of those things. But if it's your first time kind of working within a certain genre or within a certain style, I'll just say that, it could be challenging because there could be unforeseen things that just you didn't know about. Rocket League is a good example of that. It wasn't meant to be the game that it is now. It was a happy accident from a scrapped game, essentially, that turned into Rocket League. So, yeah, those things do happen. And there's plenty of games out there that you might work on it for 6 months, then it gets scrapped, or work on it for a few years and it gets scrapped because something's not working or something isn't good enough or it's just not fun, which sadly does happen as well, right? Like I've worked on a game for about 3 years and it just wasn't fun. Like the end result wasn't fun. And that's sad, but it does happen.
That sucks.
But certainly the game itself kind of dictates.
it hurts too to spend that much time and not publish, right?
Yeah, it's your baby, right? It's something you spent a lot of time and hours and work kind of working on, and then all of a sudden it's just gone. But end result is it's relatively a good thing, right? Like you don't want to be just led on forever without any finish in sight, or last thing anyone wants to do is put out a bad game as well, right? Like you don't want to put out something that no one enjoys. Like that's not the goal.
You never know.
Yeah,
You might land in the worst games ever, and then people will know you like that. if
it's
that's what
entirely
you
possible.
if that's what you're shooting at.
There's also different expectations based on what you're doing, right? Like it's a lot easier for an indie developer to put out something, and their level of success might be just launching a game, and that may be successful for them.
Yeah.
Whereas you look at like an EA, they're not going to put out a title unless it shows to be profitable, right? Like they're generally concerned only about profit. If the game looks like it's going to be profitable, we're going to keep putting money into it and see how it goes. If the game's not profitable, we're killing it off and moving on. That's pretty much true for most publishers out there, right? They're concerned about profit, the future of the title, and they don't want to put in any more funding or dollars unless there's a reason to.
That makes sense. Let's see. What is like a guide for someone in this industry down the road, down the line, 5 years from now, to do or not to do's, I guess?
Do and not to do.
Yeah, like pitfalls or.
So I would think one of the big things that you guys are doing right now is actually really good, and it's kind of evolving, I guess, for this industry specifically, is having a formal education in video game related work. You go back 10, 15 years, there wasn't such a thing as a course in any major college for any sort of video game related skill set, right? Like you might have went to school for some programming, and then that turned into engineering, that turned into coding for video games or whatever, or general computing or whatever. But nothing was tailored specifically for the video game industry. So that's all changing, and that is even starting to reflect more and more and more within our hiring practices, right? For a long time, and still, I would say still for the most part, it's accepted that you're not going to have, like, you didn't go to school for anything video game related. That's still kind of one of those things. But that is changing. People are looking for kind of that training and that education-based background. So that is, you guys are already here doing some of that, which is really good. Other good thing that I think we're seeing more and more of is people kind of creating their own games. And I say that, it doesn't even have to be successful games, but it's people just out there experimenting and playing with stuff and making stuff.
That's how new genre appear, right? Like that's how new genre or new styles or like movement get noticed.
Yep. It's also one of those things of it's still difficult, mind you. It's still not the easiest thing in the world, but it's getting easier and easier every day, every year to make a game by yourself and put it out there on Steam or put it out there on whatever platform. And that just, it helps, right? Because it's you learning and seeing the process and going through the process and doing that. So I would say it's rare for us, for anyone in the industry these days, to be hired without any kind of game experience, whether that's volunteer, freelance, what have you. Whereas previously, you go back even 5 years sometimes, and you would see engineers being hired that had no experience working in the video game industry. They come from IBM or Dell or whatever, right? Like they're working computers, they can figure it out, what have you. We even hired a guy from NASA, and literally no video game experience. He played them in his free time. That was his video game experience, but he was a engineering guy, and he figured it out. But it goes back to he never done anything on his own. He never actually worked in video games, what have you. But more and more, it's changing to the point where any little bit of experience is helpful. So if you guys are creating stuff, just keep creating stuff, because that it does show up, and it does. It's a big difference, right? Like, if you're an artist and you haven't created anything, well, what do we have to go on? You can't just apply for a job and not show us anything. As far as don'ts, I would say the big one that is biting, I'm sure you guys can probably see, is biting people in the ass is nowadays everything you say, do, or post is always there on the internet. So if, like for example, if I went out right now and said I hate EA, and then here in 3 or 4 years I applied to a job at EA, they would probably find that, and it would not look good when I'm interviewing or applying for a job there, right? Like, just be careful and mindful about the industry as a whole and what you're saying. And also keep in mind it's still a small industry, right? So if, for example, you rant about a certain developer or a certain, I don't know, something you don't like or whatever it may be, just be mindful that people talk. Even if it's not directly at the person, it may get around, and you may be, I don't want to say blacklisted, but you may have a reputation, right? Especially with anything on the internet, which you guys are very familiar with, I assume at this point, anything you say is there forever and can be found. So that is the big one right now, I guess, that's coming up more and more and more as people are being interviewed. It's everything from sexist comments to racist comments to specifically being negative, or being really hateful towards a game or hateful towards a developer. Just everything, right? It comes into play when you're looking to hire somebody. That's obviously that's easily the biggest don't right now is just, I'll put it very bluntly, just don't be an asshole. Just be nice. That's a simple way to say it. As far as other don'ts, I guess the other one I see a lot of is just people just not willing to reach out, right? Like, don't be afraid to reach out to people. Like, if you don't reach out, it's not like someone's going to come out and find you. You've got to be proactive. It's getting better. I think people are getting better about it, but that's the big one. It's don't be shy. People are often way too shy about things. Like, don't be afraid to follow up to an email. Don't be afraid to, shoot someone a message. Don't be afraid to just follow up. It is getting better, but that's still a big one. I guess that it's probably less important now than it ever has been, but previously we would have people just learn one skill set, right? And that was all they could do. Like, for example, if the only thing you could do is 2D art, and the only thing within 2D art you can do is one specific style or whatever, right? Then you're limiting yourself extremely, and that used to be a thing. More and more people are getting better and better and broader skill sets, or at least the ability to work on multiple things at once, or what have you. Tools are getting a lot better to do as well, right? So that helps tremendously in that regard. But I would say try to get a broad set of skills. You should focus on a few things, but broadly, the more you're able to work on certain things or help with certain things, it helps.
Yeah, that's good. That's actually pretty good because just last week we were exploring different art styles, right? Going back and forth between Borderland style to like more painterly, just trying to kind of unify the art styles so everyone does the same thing and stays consistent throughout the game. And transitioning from 2D to 3D, that's always a little challenging. And that's where we are right now, and I feel like that takes a longer time than we expected, to get everyone come together and follow the same style and get as close as possible to the concepts. So, yeah, just I think practice makes it better for everyone, and but if like it's your own individual time that you have to put in, like a couple of hours a day to practice your line work or technique or whatever you want to achieve, you want to get better at. So Um,
I'll mention there on that note as well. What's really cool and really good to see is if you post your progress, right? Like
yes.
if you can show off that I went from here to here, and I might have started off being rough around the edges or whatever, right? Like my style was this, and here I am 6 months later or a year later, and I can do this now. That kind of progress is really good. That it does show up when people are looking at you or looking at your portfolio or looking at your resume or what have you. So don't be afraid to show early work either. It is, regardless of how it looks, it does show that you are willing to learn and progress and improve your skills. You're not just going to be doing the same thing over and over again or sticking with the status quo. You're willing to work and improve.
Cool. Yeah, that's perfect. Any other questions? Because I can continue. I have so many. But I also know Lance, so he's he's a little bit more available to me than to y'all. So Sarar is Would you like to introduce yourself? Thanks for joining.
Oh yeah, of course. And I do apologize for showing up late. I was my previous meeting was leading into this one. My name is Sarar. I'm employed as a lab assistant in the simulation and game development program at Supreme Mountain Community College. So I finished the game program last winter, and now I'm just working part time on my, move forward and try new things. And I don't know. I specialize in art. I did do kind of delve into other fields, but character design and visuals is more my thing. I'm helping us with art direction with this project. So, like, I
Yeah.
mean, I don't want to.
You should show
I
some of the
feel
concepts.
okay, sure.
Feel free. Yeah.
For this project or like in general.
For this, for anything you want to show. So free format.
Oh,
And anyone, I mean, Chris, Seth, Arya, anyone who wants to show anything, that's Emily, feel free. Yeah, get your pieces ready. We are in visual arts and entertainment. We like seeing things.
Alright, well, I did put together a slideshow of the stuff I made in the past.
All right, that's awesome.
So,
right after Sarar.
alright.
Or it's up to you, Sarah. Do you want Chris to go first to give you a few minutes to get ready?
yeah, that's fine.
Okay,
That's fine.
cool. Take the
Yeah.
lead.
So, this is some of the stuff I've made in the past. Have you seen it?
Yes. So
So,
give us
that one.
give us a little story behind like 2 seconds, 5 seconds of a story.
Alright, so this one here, this was my final for my 3D modeling 2 class, I think, where we had to make a character or an item in general. I made this character and texture painted him in Substance. And this character here, this was I threw this character together when I was trying to test facial rigs and trying to animate a character saying something. And unfortunately, I don't have the actual model anymore. That computer died and took all my files with it. So all I have left is these photos. So next is this character. I was working on him for an idea for a game, but I realized I don't have the time nor the skills yet to actually complete that. It was supposed to be like a survival game. And this was just way too high quality. It kept crashing my computer every time I tried to animate it. This character, was moving on from that. I was trying to make a similar character, but that I could animate, so I went with a sort of a prisoner kind of vibe. And this one I do actually still have the model. It's on Sketchfab, but this is just a character that is like working more with facial animations, trying to figure out how to get it working well. On other characters I just made for various reasons. Skeleton, because I thought like it's fun to make a skeleton. It was around Halloween. And just a gator, because I don't remember what the concept was. I think I saw some cartoon with a gator on it and wanted to make one. This here is supposed to be a Scotsman. The lighting's not good, but he is wearing a kilt. And these characters here were trying to make faces and make sure, like, I'm still not great at making a female head, so I was trying to, like, okay, what's the difference? What can I do to make it more distinct? This here was this ninja was for my final for my game development project, I believe. And I animated him in a skit. And this house is just something I threw together because, like, I want to model a house for some reason. And these are some of the concepts I've worked on for this game that we're making here. And that's all I got right now.
Very cool.
Yeah, looks great. Thank you. So, what type of questions would you have? Like, do you want to continue working with characters, or do you want to continue exploring different directions? Because it does look like you experimented with modeling environments, props, characters, texturing. So do you want to do all of those, or you want to go into in animation, obviously? So you want to do all of this, like, because those are 3 or 4 jobs, which is fine. It's good that you're exploring. Or do you want to grow in a specific area and need advice for that area?
So I like 3D modeling in general and just making things in general, but if I had to say a focus, it would be on characters, because I just love to see them come to life and see a character move about that you've created. And the environment, it doesn't do that as much.
I can totally see your passion for characters, and I think you get in there. What do you think, Lance? What advice would you have for Chris?
Yeah, characters are, I would say they're critical, and they're really challenging. That's the hard part, right? Like, there's numerous games out there that have beautiful looking art, but they don't have, like, that character that grips you, or that character that you are wanting to be or play as or experience the world as. And that is the challenging bit, and a lot of that comes with how they look or how they play or how they move, and even those animations and things of that nature. So yeah, it's a hard one, but it's definitely a good one, right? Especially if you have a passion for it. It's something that you can show off and put yourself into. But yeah, they are critical to most games in terms of what you remember about the game is oftentimes the characters and what they are going through and how they see and do things, right? So, like Last of Us, for example, right? Everyone knows the characters; they're iconic. Or God of War, right? It's an iconic character. So yeah, that's really cool. It's challenging, and you have to be able to put your own spin on it to add flavor to it. I would say, as any little bit of help here is, this isn't something I would normally say, is I'm not a big comic book person, but if you look at comic books, they do a really good job on their characters, even though they're 2D and flat, but they do a really good job of making those characters come to life and be iconic and show off what those characters are. The same thing for 3D or what have you. Same sort of thing. The more little details and things you can get in there to add kind of that I guess add that detail in there that helps.
Yeah, I've noticed that ever since I started doing this, every time I watch an animated show or anything, I'm constantly looking at it like, so that's how they did that.
Yep. Sadly, that will. If you you guys stay in the industry, you'll see more and more of that, whether that is television or shows or whatever. Like, I watched Mandalorian last year, right? And a lot of that is done in UE4 and UE5. And it's like, oh, I realize what's happening. Like, that's it. It kind of breaks the immersion for a little bit once you can kind of see behind what's actually what they're doing. Still cool, but it's one of those things you'll see more and more as you do watch animation or you do watch or play more games. Like, oh no, they did this. It's like you're like looking behind the curtain, so to speak.
Yeah. One thing I'd like to add, it's something that David on the team, he was on the summer team. He's not here, I think, but he has a lot of play with in his art. He's using a lot of playing with perspectives, foreshortening, distortions. When it shows when you do it confidently, that shows confidence in, like, it shows experience, but it also shows the freedom of mind and imagination. So don't be afraid to, like, don't forget that learning the rules is important, like Sarar stated last time. So keep in mind the rules, but start using a little bit of the quirkiness, the different little your tweaks, your personality, and infuse that into your art, and that's how you're gonna get noticeable and stand out for sure.
I put this together based on, I modified the computer model I sent in earlier to make it more distorted.
So give Lance a little bit of perspective. We are doing a game in a dream. Basically, the headline is, well, the title is Deadline, but you're in a dream and you're like wondering where's the time going? Like, where did the time go? And what's sucking your energy and your time into what exactly affects your daylight and time. So you're fighting the procrastination and the distractions and the digital world basically. So one idea we are exploring right now with is distortion. Like, how do you go back and forth between the night and day, the dream kind of world to the day world, and finding the right proportions for some of these monitors. And we are getting to the lab, right? So the lab room, and that'll be something that we would probably. And when I say distortion, like, it doesn't have to be distorted. Like, as I know it's super fun to just pull and drag things around, but it's also in like the variations of the width of the frame, for example. So that could like get a little bigger or thicker or shorter, you know. In the model itself, not only like on the overall object on the outside. That's that's a good start. It's really good.
Sarah, if you want to go.
Oh yeah.
Thank you, Chris. That was great.
I might disable my camera because, as my friends here are all aware, I hear a cable grasp on the internet here. But let's share the screen.
So just to double check, how much time do you have, Lance? So we know how to go by with the.
20 more minutes, give or take.
How many more minutes?
20.
20?
0.
Okay. All right.
And I'll be brief.
I guess we're gonna have maybe a room for one more person to go after Sarar.
So, like I was saying earlier, this is just a drive of compiling of some of my art pieces. Got to go through and like call some of them. But where I specialize in a lot is character writing, character building, world building, the sociology of characters. But a lot of that isn't really going to be directly conveyed here. But I guess we'll just point out some in particular. First of all, is my audio still clear?
Yeah.
Good. All right.
All right, let's hope for the best.
Hope for the best. It's trying so hard. I don't know why I keep using Drive when it slows down this bad on the call, but here's what I'm going to do.
So if you're running this from the cloud, that's not a good idea. It'll be
Yeah,
great
you're-
if you could do it from your computer, because a cloud takes its own speed and stuff. So
Yeah, so give me one second, actually. Sorry.
that's what we are going to have to watch out for when we launch the app for publicly for a lot of people. Everything is going to be in the web browser, and one thing that we have to watch is for the frame rate. It's people uploading their stuff and using their own clouds. It's going to be limiting some, so it's something to just like always to keep in mind for ourselves. It's not for you, it's for us, but knowing that using people's clouds in different speeds, and everyone is different, and everyone's computers are different, so optimizing everything, that makes it a lot more, our work more challenging. All right. Just to know, we don't have that much more time. Is there anyone else that want to show something after Sarah?
Yes, I could.
Okay, Seth, that's fine. Could you please get your stuff ready to display from the computer? Okay, thank you.
Okay, got a full in a folder. But just to show the illustration work I can do, there's this one random piece that does some, Final Fantasy Drive characters. Don't worry about the cat ears. There is, let's see, painting that is so large that it's going to take very long. You know what? This is embarrassing. I've decided this is kind of embarrassing.
Technology always fails when you want it, when you don't want
Right.
it
In front of everybody.
to. At least you're not on a stage in front of a couple thousand people. I've had that happen before.
Oh.
So
Oh, boy.
Oh no,
Yeah,
are you serious? That
this
could
is
be
my practice roll.
a funny story to hear, Lance. What happened?
So I was doing a presentation for White Knights in where was that? London, I think. On stage, I had to bring them my thumbstick for my presentation. Gave them the thumbstick. They loaded it all up. Did a test run. Everything worked. So then, person before me was having problems with PowerPoint. It was like what I think actually was that the computer and the laptop they were using had never been registered or never had fully activated their Microsoft Office or something or other. I think either way, the guy before me was having problems, so he stopped using PowerPoint altogether. And when I went up there to use it, their tech was up there trying to get things working, and the whole thing just like stalled. So I'm on stage waiting, the tech's up there working on a laptop, and I'm just pretty much just bullshitting with the crowd while we're waiting on the presentation to get up and going. So yeah, it happens. Tech problems, it's fine.
So thinking on your feet is a good skill to have, huh?
Just for those.
Improvising too. Okay.
If I can show you 3 pieces today, I will be satisfied at this point. So can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. This is another thing I did. I really want to get to my character concept turnarounds.
The name of that one was Baby Cousin.
Oh, I just because my friend and I have these characters that I like found family trope, so I don't know. I just they're young girls. I just thought it'd be cute that they would have like a cousin like relationship. You know, this is a great reason why you should curate your titles. You know what?
Play. A lot of the art reminds me of a game called Boyfriend Dungeon. I don't know if you've played that or not, or looked at it before.
I've heard of it. I followed a lot of I played some of the games that devs had made prior, and it's like on my list
Get
of
Fox.
games. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. Okay. What I really wanted to share part of was turnarounds from the comic I did last year. There was a webcomic short story contest I did in 2020. That was last year, yeah. I had about like a month or so to do a 5-chapter comic with a certain like panel requirement, and there was a theme for it. And I had never done a comic before that point because I was under here like, I'm gonna do games, but I've never done sequential art before, so I was gonna, use that as a platform to, okay, I have an interest in telling stories, and an interest in writing characters, an interest in, world building. Let me see what I can do in, a month and a half, and it came out like very ambitious, and the whole process of going through with like writing several scripts and several outlines, and having to delete them and be like, you know what, I can't do this. You know what, I can do this. Learning how to, I guess, be efficient with art. Especially for comic sequential stuff, you can't go all out with a fully rendered illustration like this every time because you're gonna burn yourself out.
100%.
Guess who got
Yep.
burned out? Yeah. So, big lesson I learned there is just not to worry so much about like chiseling things when that's not what the piece itself is going to be used for, except for like pieces, panels. But again, I just wanted to try comics out for the need. And I did finish, the comic, and I made all my friends read it, and a lot of them were like, "Rob, this is beautiful. It doesn't make a lot of sense. I like it a lot." And did I place? No, but was I proud of doing that and finishing something? Because finishing things is one of the intimidating parts about any kind of project, basically, because you could start 1,000 projects and they can be so ambitious, but if you don't finish them, do you have that experience? It was something that like a big milestone for me. So not like we can see it here. This is like different.
Well, I was gonna say finishing it is arguably one of the most important parts because that also shows you're ready to be open for feedback and criticisms and what have you. A lot of people who make art, they never post it, or they never show it off, or they never say it's final for that very reason, right? There's a reason they don't want to finish it, so to speak, right, or be done with it. It's challenging, both mentally and it's one of those you get the mindset of what's going to happen to it once you're finished with it. Like, because I'm sure most of you know, being artists or having an art background, art is one of those things that's very subjective. There's artists out there that I've worked with specifically who will take. Granted, I'm not an artist, so keep this in mind. What I think is the same exact image, and they'll work on it for months, perfecting it. And from my dumbass eyes, it all looks the same. But from them, they're adding shades and lines, and little things here and there. But from my point of view, it's like it looks the same. But that's several months, or maybe even longer. That was worth that amount of time adding to it. Maybe it was. Maybe it wasn't. Who knows? But it's a hard thing to say you're done with it for sure.
So I guess the question I had, if you had any insight into it, is if I were developing a portfolio specifically to go into like characters or visual arts in general, what kinds of pieces should I aim to include or produce, like I guess to qualify or stick out or what you say?
So, granted, I didn't see all of it, but like that drive you're loading up had a bunch of different characters and poses and even multiple characters on the same screen and some different styles. That's almost ideal. If you can show off the variety of your skill set within your portfolio, that's really helpful. If you can show off, I think, and this isn't anything specifically bad about anyone or anything I've seen here, but oftentimes in portfolios we'll see maybe different art styles, but it's all like the same pose or all the same like style of how the character is set up. If we can see, the same character in multiple poses or stances or
Turnarounds.
interactions, right?
So basically,
Yes.
you're asking for turnarounds. That is more applicable to the gaming industry. That the character artist knows the concept of that.
Yep.
Okay.
So a lot of the art that you guys will have in your portfolio is just like concept pieces, which is fine. But if you can take it a little step further and have the same character in multiple concept pieces doing different things, that's really, really strong. Because that's more akin to what you'll actually be working on. But stuff like this is all fine.
Yeah,
It's all good.
there you
Yeah.
go. There you go. You have some turnarounds over there.
Yeah, stuff like this is really good.
Ready to go build that portfolio now. Awesome.
A lot
Thanks
of
for your input.
character artists have their portfolio on ArtStation or I mean, if it's a 3D, then Sketchfab I guess works too because you can make money too. But you can make money now on every single one. So I don't think there is building your own website justifies it. Instagram and ArtStation kind of is there for you, so just use those to promote yourself and sell if you need to, if you want to, or just ask for advice and feedback and connect with other people you like. But yeah, do you want to show your concept for this game? The main characters?
Me? So,
Yeah, still you, yes.
okay.
And then we're gonna switch to set. So at least we show
Okay,
something
yeah.
though from the game that we are working on.
All right. If I don't get
This
that
is
in 3
all
seconds, then
all their idea, all the college's idea and the teams. So with the game and everything, how to beat procrastination and become more, I don't know, like beat the deadline, meet the deadline. So and how do you fight those distractions that constantly bombards you, and how the brain reacts to that kind of challenge? It's in if it's in
So in
Discord.
in terms of
Yeah,
character
there you
design for
go.
this project, yeah, let's see if I can get as big as possible without having to house themselves.
But these type of pieces are super good.
Super good. That's why we're pushing towards that, and now pushing everyone to, following the proportions, the directions, the style guide, like not mis- so we're starting with 2D and then we're moving to 3D. Like that's what's happening here. Ideally, so we'll see how that's gonna end, but in the 3D world, we struggle right now to come as close as it gets to the turnaround. Just click on that one, the turnaround, sorry. The turnaround? The one that's... okay, cool.
Oh,
Yeah. Zoom out a little bit.
so if you spin, you can almost
Computer or the internet distro link.
it's probably a mix of both. The Microsoft Surface is a gorgeous device for illustration and things, but you try to utilize anything that involves CPU, and it's just gonna fry your arms. So how about that Steam Deck coming in whenever that's happening? Look forward to that. It's possible building a PC these days, but they build it for you. Portable. Knock it up. It's just a computer.
We got our dev kits a couple weeks ago.
Okay, sir, why don't you open just the PNG, not the program
Yeah.
itself, because application takes another time to load, so just the PNG would suffice.
Right. It was already open, but it's not gonna happen. Hold on. I'm just gonna post a link to the note link there. Ah.
Computer is giving up.
And I know we talked about last time the size of the pieces that we're working on. We do want to keep them as high as possible, but like we also want to have something that is light, reduced in size, just so we can share it in Discords. Thank God Discord limits the size of the files to what, to 10 megabytes, I think?
It's 8 megabytes is the lower.
5 or 10, something, yeah.
Something like that.
Oh, look at those laser eyes that I am only seeing now, Arya. Yes, that is pretty nice.
Okay, so I did post the work in progress can run into the no mic chat, but I can tab to share my screen again. But if as long as y'all can see it,
I
there,
can.
then
I'll share the screen.
yes, please.
Yeah, looks cool.
So it said no mic chat.
Oh, you don't have your Discord on night mode.
No, I don't have it on night mode. I have it on record, so I'm recording this. And I selected the portion that's recording, and everything else is in the night mode. Does that make sense? Because we have other people that it doesn't. We have other people that are missing the session and want to watch. So as for us recording it, and we have narrative designers and copywriters that have lots of questions but are working. So if there's any advice for them, that'll be also great. If not, then maybe Seth can go, since we don't have that much time. Seth, you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay, go.
I'm going.
Seth has a very good and interesting art direction for his procrastination.
So this is
character.
just a few of the other artworks that this is like one of the first beginning ones that I've done. That I started out with. It's another one that I did for a friend of mine. Working with lines, still trying to get better at that even now. Then this is the actual concept of the procrastination boss that I've been working on. Let me make this a bit bigger.
Tell us a little bit of backstory. Is it inspired from what game?
So, some inspirations that I got from this was, of course, the original one that was made by, is it Adam or?
Yeah, yes.
Cameron.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it was that and a combination of some like game enemies that I found enjoyable. So the eyes, it's like two reasons for that. One was like based off typical monster designs that have like eyes everywhere. And two, just like the idea that has all these eyes that are looking in different directions, but never focused on the task at hand.
Yeah, that's good. That's really good. And show the game that you are looking at for inspiration.
So I would have to pull up that image again. So another that I got inspiration from was this sort of beast, the Denton Carmen. First starts off as this, and then it can change its form to be this dog beast. And then there's another one. There's another form somewhere that I would have to find. This one here.
This is a cool game.
This is from the game Patapon, specifically Patapon 2. This is the final boss of that game.
It's my style of games. It's very like abstract. I don't like very realistic stuff. I mean, I can enjoy some shooting games, but this is like someone any artist would enjoy probably. I'm obsessed with this art. So it's there's so many things going on. There's optical illusion. There's playing with form and shape and changing that different ways, but it works. And it's weird and it's strange, and the color choices is just amazing and it's beautiful. I'm obsessed. I didn't know that's. We just realized that a few days ago that his inspiration comes from here, of some of it, and we stayed a little bit after Tuesday, after the session to discuss how can we transition into a better animation for this guy. It's pretty, I would like to see. Can you play the trailer for that, or maybe later? But what questions would you have for Lance?
I remember this game. I think this was like 10 years ago or so, or longer probably. But yes.
Yeah, this game was like a very old game. Well, it was originally on the PSP.
Yep.
So it was like very, very long ago.
I'm surprised you still like know that, Seth. You look young for those things.
It's good to know.
Even now, I still have
still
have my PSPs right here.
Oh, you kept it.
We haven't sent them visitors.
Awesome. You kept it.
Oh wow.
I had the PSP as well.
I was lucky enough to get 2.
Okay, cool. So what any questions for Lance? Like, what do you want to know in terms of portfolio, in terms of future, in terms of help for yourself, anything?
I guess specifically for portfolio, my question would be, what exactly would people want to look for?
So there's 2 ways to kind of approach that, right? So I guess the 2 ways that I generally see are kind of like the big portfolio with a ton of work in it, with a variety, showing off what your skill set is, which is great. There's nothing wrong with that by any means. There's really no downside to showing off your skill set, your variety, and what you've worked on, and even if there's a progression of your skills, showing that off. The other thing you'll see, which can be good if you know exactly what you're doing, but it's kind of more of a targeted portfolio. Say, for example, you know you're trying to get a job with this studio or this developer or whoever, right? And they're working on, let's just say, Borderlands, right? The next Borderlands. It's very much going to be in the cel-shaded style. So if you want to build up a portfolio based solely on kind of your take on that style, or your experience with that style and what you can do with it, you can definitely go that route as well. Just keep in mind that requires, it's good and bad. It's a double-edged sword, right? If you do it well, they'll see it and it'll help you. If you don't do it up to their standards, then it'll hurt you and they won't see anything else. So there's good and bad to it, but if you know for a fact that this developer needs this, or they're looking for this, and you have a bunch of it, then it might be in your benefit to show them what you can do. Generally, during the hiring process, they'll ask you if you've done anything else. So, they may ask for other things you've worked on just to make sure that you're not a one-trick pony type of thing. But that is something that happens often as well. Like if you know the sequel to a game's coming out and you're applying to Gearbox, yeah, maybe put together a cel-shaded portfolio type of thing to show off your skill set there.
All right, that's oh, thank you so much.
Another good one that I haven't seen very much of, but has also been helpful, is including little notes and things, right?
Like a backstory.
Not all websites allow you to do that. I know DeviantArt and ArtStation allow you to add in comments and what have you. Just throw in like a little note about what this piece is. That does help too. It adds enough information to certain things that it's like, oh, I can say this is a character, but if you name the character and say whatever, or if you design an environment, just throw in a little stuff, something about what it is or where it is or what this character's doing or whatever. Those little details do help because it shows that there's thought behind what you're doing, I guess. There's a bigger picture.
Cool. Thank you. All right. So I know
Cool.
if you guys want to ask
Fiona
anything
is
else.
talking and muted. Fantastic.
Oh no. Sorry.
I can say it all over again.
That's okay. Any other questions, or if you guys want to, specifically address something to Lance, he's here in Discord, so probably hit him up with any kind of information that you would like to hear and didn't hear today. I know he has a busy schedule, and I thank you so much for coming today, and appreciate your help. Hope
My pleasure.
Hope that was somewhat helpful for y'all, and just feel free to share anything you want, and we're looking forward to show you the progress that we have.
Yeah, that'd be cool. And like you said, if you guys have any follow-up questions or anything, feel free to hit me up.
Thank you. I'll see you soon.
Take care.
Bye.
See you guys.
Oh, I think we still have a few minutes left here, so what did you guys think, guys and girls? We have a good 1, 2, 3, 4 girls versus 3 guys. So let's say, what do you girls think?
Not versus, we are together.
Huh?
It's not versus, we are. Anyway, it was really nice and insightful to have him